Howdy, howdy, Chris here. We're back in the garage today, and today we're going to finish up this Sonic repair. We're going to reassemble this and paint the front end. There's going to be a lot of great information in this video, so let's get into it. Okay, so we're coming along on the repair. Darius has went ahead and stripped this door. We took the door handles off. He took the weather belts off, got this all cleaned and sanded with 600 grit sandpaper. Now, we use 600 grit for our blend area, so we're going to blend the front of that door there and then clear this entire panel. That'll give us a good color match when we go to paint it. We also sanded this A-pillar right here. He sanded the first foot or so of this A-pillar, and we're going to blend the color right there so it matches properly from the fender to the pillar. The hood is all ready. We've got a couple little burn-through areas, but that's not an issue because we are repainting this white with the original factory color, which is 8624. But we've got the variants for this particular car, so we're going to have a good color match. Darius also prepped out this fender. Again, 600 grit sandpaper. We cleaned it real well before we sanded it, and there is a good reason for that because on white in particular, you're going to get some ground-in dirt into that white. You got to make sure that's very clean. There's no smudges on it because if we go to blend this fender and then clear it, if we've got a smudge, a dirt smudge down here, we're going to clear over that smudge. That's going to be locked in there forever. You got to really make sure it's clean. A lot of times I'll clean it and then I'll buff it and get all that ground-in dirt off the white before we start sanding it. We're going to put this all together before we start painting. I want to paint this all together. We need to clean this really well. After we get it all prepped out and sanded, we're going to go ahead and blow out all this trash, make sure this engine compartment's clean and dust free. Then we'll put it together, fit all the parts, get all the body gaps good. Then we'll go ahead and mask it off and paint it. So we'll walk you through the entire process. Let's get this done. Okay, so we're getting ready to pull this outside. We want to wash down this floor because there's so much trash coming out of this when we started blowing it out. In the wheel wells, a bunch of just dirt and muds. We're going to pull it out, blow it out outside so it's not stirring up dust in here in the shop, and then wash down these floors. Well, I guess summer's not really over because it's like 93 degrees today. We got the Sonic all blown out, all the dust off it as much as we could. We went ahead and wet down the floor. A couple things we do is we got this exhaust fan here. We got our filter here. We're going to change the desiccant beads in that. So when you're masking off a vehicle, we always like to start with the doors open. So we mask off all the jams first. Obviously, after it's all clean and ready to be masked off, I'll first make sure everything's sanded properly the way I want it sanded. And then we'll open up the hood, open up the doors. We'll do the foam tape in the jams like we want it. Like this door here, we're going to open it up. We're going to put foam tape right in here. We'll open it up, put foam tape in, back tape this edge of this hood. And then we'll shut the hood, and then we can mask off the rest of the vehicle. This, Darius. So we're blending the color right here. So Darius sanded this with 600, but we need to blend the clear right here. So in order to do that, we need to take this gray Scotch-Brite and scuff a little past where we're going to be blending. Now we can buff these scratches out. These are fine scratches, and we can buff them out. And that's why it's okay to sand it up well past where we're going to be blending the clear. So we'll blend the clear right about here, but we'll need to buff this up to here. I'm just going to go over some of these shiny areas on this hood. So any shiny areas, you want to knock off that shine so you get good adhesion with the clear coat. Okay, here's where we're at, people. We've got it all masked off. You saw Darius and I, we masked off the inside of the jams first. We did all the edges with the 1.5-inch tape, and then we ran plastic over it, cut out the areas that we'll be painting, and that completes the masking. Really not that difficult. Some of these areas, like right here, you got to be careful to to fill all the holes. You don't want any dust blowing out of those cracks. We ran foam tape in between the door and the fender. The only problem with doing this is it's really hot today. It's like 95 degrees right now. It's not a lot of fun. Basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be painting the hood completely. We'll be painting the fender completely. We're going to blend our color into this door panel. So what we'll do is we'll cover all this area, and after we cover it, that'll leave a little bit of a blend into this door. We'll blend it out a little bit further, so we'll do a gradual transition of the color from the fender to the door. The color is very close, but that'll trick your eye enough so you won't be able to tell if there is any kind of color difference. We will blend right into this A-pillar, and then we're going to blend into the top of this fender and then clear the entire fender. So we're going to go ahead and mix up our paint. We're going to get after this. I think I'm going to use the PORPHIS PRD 715. In the last video we used the 717, which is this gun here, but I think today we're going to be using this gun here. 1.3 tip and needle set. This one is not a split tip, so this is a traditional style tip. Mixing up the base coat here. This mixes up 2-to-1. This is Nason full base, so there's the 2-to-1 mixing ratio. We'll put our paint in the first column, the 2 column, and then we'll go to the 1 column and put our reducer, and we'll match it to the amount of paint that we put in. Slow reducer with this heat. Put a little extra reducer in because white is typically a thicker paint, so I find if I put a little extra reducer, it thins it out a little bit and helps it to lay out a little flatter. And so as far as the fluid volume, we're going to open this up 3 turns out from close. So we've opened it up 3 turns. The fan pattern we're going to have wide open, which is right here. This is the fan pattern. And then the air pressure, I'm going to set this at about 20 PSI to start with. I may adjust it from there. I'll just go into the door a little bit, go into that pill a little bit, and then we'll go across the hood. 18.
Let me give you an idea of how to apply paint. Now, you're going to see me change up my technique in this video because it's very hot today and I'm trying to dial it in and adjust my technique accordingly. But what you want is you want to have a consistent speed, a consistent distance from your panel. So after you have your gun all set up the way you want it, and you may need to change that gun during your painting process, you want to have a consistent speed, consistent distance, and you want to overlap your passes about 75%. So what that means is if you make a pass, you want to come back over that pass and overlap it by 75%.
All right, this is basically dry, so we're going to go right into the second coat because it's over 100 degrees in the shop right now.
Under normal conditions, like a 70-degree day or an 80-degree day, you're going to want to wait 10 to 15 minutes before you apply your second coat because it's so hot today. It's drying. By the time I get around to the other side is dried, so I'm ready to put on my second coat. But typically it's 10 to 15 minutes. You want it to flash off just a little bit before you apply your second coat. Now, when you're applying like a high metallic finish, obviously we're just doing a white here, so your overlap is not that important. But when you're applying a high metallic finish, you want to make sure your overlap is correct. This is going to give you a consistent orientation of your metallics. Give you an idea of how I blend the panels. So we're blending into this fender so we get a good color match. The only basically thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move away from the panel just a little bit so I create a little bit more distance from the panel, and then I'm going to fog it over that panel. Now we do have some overspray that's already accumulated like on that fender and this door, but I'm going to kind of do also a crosshatch pattern. So I'm going to go down and then up at an angle, and then I'm going to spray up at an angle. With white, it's not that big a deal, but if you have a metallic finish, it can be helpful.
Clear coat, 3 turns out from closed. Close it all the way. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go 3.5. I'm going to bump up the air pressure a little bit. 20 psi. That's what we're going to do.
These guns use a little bit less air pressure.
Uncommon question that I get, and I'm not sure exactly why, but everybody wants to know how long can you wait before you have to apply clear coat. Now that's different for all paint manufacturers, so you definitely want to check the technical data sheet for the paint you're using. Typically it's between 12 and 24 hours. I know guys who wait overnight before they apply their clear coat. I don't do that. Typically I'm waiting 20 minutes maybe. If you really wanted to, I would feel comfortable waiting up to like 6 hours, but always check your technical data sheet for that information to make sure you're doing it properly. As far as techniques to applying clear coat, again, you want to have a consistent speed and a consistent distance when you're laying down your clear coat. Now, as I'm spraying here, you're going to see me change up my technique because I'm fighting this clear coat to get it to lay down the way I want to because it's so hot. But you want to be consistent speed, consistent distance, set up the gun the way you want it. And if you're not getting the finish that you want, you can change the way that clear coat is laying on the panel by adjusting your speed and your distance. If you're new to applying clear coat, then it's not a bad idea to do a test panel, set up your gun the way you want it, do a test spray out, see if you can get the finish that you're looking for in the conditions you're working in.
I got some sweat in there. It was dirty sweat, and I was able to take a piece of tape and get that dirt out. Now I can clear over it, and hopefully we'll be good to go. We'll have to wet sand and buff that, but
if your first coat of clear is not perfect, don't worry about it because we're going to come back over with your second coat of clear. Typically you only need 2, and the second coat is really where you want to refine it and get the best finish possible. Now we're ready for our second coat, so I'm going to test the paper. So I'm putting my finger on the paper just to see how sticky it is. If string's coming off it and it's a little stringy, it's not quite ready. If it's just tacky, that's a good base to apply that second coat of clear. And typically it's about 10 to 15 minutes. In these temperatures, it may be more like 5. So you don't want to put it on too early. If you put it on too early, you're going to trap solvents in that clear coat, and you're going to get solvent pops, which are just little bumps in your clear coat. If you wait too long, you can get dieback, and a lot of people don't think about that, but if you wait too long to apply your second coat of clear, it will die back a little bit, and that's basically where you lose a little bit of your gloss. You don't want any of those issues, so just be aware of how it's going to affect your clear. We're just going to use this Upol number 9. This is a blending agent. So right where we did this clear blend, we're going to hit it a couple times. I'll peel the plastic back a little bit, hit it again. That's going to help that clear coat to melt into the old clear coat. So it'll help the new clear coat to melt into the old. And this is just going to make it a little easier to buff. Now I don't like blending clear on pillars, but sometimes this is just what it calls for. Okay, so here's a good look at the job we painted yesterday. Now the hood has a little dieback. I'm really not super happy with this paint job. Couple things. White's a little bit more difficult to paint because you can't see what you're doing. I was using the PORPHIS PRD 715, which is a great gun, but I just didn't have it dialed in. I haven't used it in a while. So I was kind of trying some different things on it. We've got some texture here. We're just gonna have to wet sand it out. Listen, I'm not perfect. I don't always get, spotless, perfect paint jobs. Sometimes I get some orange peel, especially when, it was 95 degrees outside yesterday, probably 120 here in the shop, and I was fighting it. You may spray some paint and clear one day and it just lay down perfectly because you've got the right conditions, the temperature's right. There's a lot of variables that can change. It can change from paint job to paint job. On the video, you saw that we dripped some sweat right out of here. I dripped some sweat out of my glove, and it was dirty sweat on a white paint job, which is not good. So I had to take a piece of tape, and I just pressed it on there and was able to pull that dirt right off the panel and then clear over it. Now we're gonna have to do some wet sanding and buffing right there. Smooth that out, but at least we don't have dirt in a white paint job. So little texture, little dieback, and a little bit of dust. So a little bit of everything in this paint job.
I hope you found this information helpful. If you did, leave me a comment down below and definitely subscribe to the channel, like and share. Your continued support is what helps this channel grow. To pick up some high quality merch, go to garagenoisegear.com. I'll leave a link in the description. And if you want to learn more about paint and body repair, check out this video now. I appreciate each and every one of you watching. We'll see you next time on Garage Noise.